Hi, my name's Bill Sutley, or William Sutley. I'm the Executive Director of Ranch for Kids. And exactly 1 week ago today, we had unexpected visitors here at our Rexford school, our Rexford Lodge. And I run a program, Ranch for Kids, for currently at that time 27 students, 27 program participants. And so let me just recount some of the facts, some of the issues, some of the things that happened the last Tuesday morning. I had scheduled a MANT training. MANT is a safety training and relationship-based training that we do here. It's as one of our therapeutic models. And I had scheduled Monday and Tuesday to do training from about 9 to 5. And not only do I train as a MANT certified trainer instructor for our team, for our staff, but I also train parents at our parent training weekends, and I train with our students, our program participants, at least not the technical or conceptual components of the training, but the relational components, the relationship skills and the communication skills and conflict resolution skills. So anyway, back up. Last Tuesday morning I came in, we did a morning prayer, we did a little bit of a review over the prior day's training, asking questions, and then had one of my staff come in, said that I'm requested in the office. So I pause and she takes over with where I left off. I leave the gymnasium where all the kids and the students are lined up at the tables and the benches, and I've got the projector and the whiteboard in the gym, and we're getting ready to jump full steam ahead into our Tuesday's training, the communications chapter, for instance. Well, so I walked into the office, and there I find 2 law enforcement officials and a state official. And they proceeded to tell me, you're shut down, we're removing all of your kids right now. I was dumbfounded, obviously, and I said, what? You can't do that, we have guardianship over them, and and parents have guardianship. And they said, yes, we can, and they put 30 pages of paperwork on my desk and essentially said, we have the paperwork that allows us to do that, Emergency Protective Services, investigative authority, temporary investigative authority to do that. And from that point, we left the office, and they wanted me to be outside the building, so I went out there and stood around the picnic table out front. The other staff member that had previously been in the office, he was directed outside too, and we were isolated, although we could see each other. We were isolated with our own personal law enforcement assistants. Essentially, law enforcement said that they were there to keep the peace, and then they proceeded to remove the kids, and vehicles began pulling up, about 20 different vehicles, and law enforcement and child protective services specialists and people from the state. So that's sort of how this all began shortly after 9 o'clock on last Tuesday morning. I guess that would have been, today's the 30th, so on the 23rd. Anyway, I guess I want to share with you a little bit more about my interactions. Of course, I let them know that I was not pleased with this, the way this is being handled. I let them know that this is very much a traumatic event, not only for our entire team, but also for all of these kids who have trauma histories. I told them I would cooperate. I didn't resist. I obviously didn't get arrested, but I did at one point have an officer sit down next to me, and he said, I need to tell you that the state wanted us, Child Protective Services and the Department of Health and Human Services wanted to kick your doors in and bring SWAT onto the scene, and we chose to not do that. We chose to handle it differently. And I put my arm around him, and I said, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that decision. And then I proceeded to tell him, even though I appreciated that that's not how this was happening, that it could be handled much better. It could have been handled much better. And then later on in the conversation, I begged, I pleaded, I said, please, allow me to go in and address our team, address the kids, and debrief with them, explain to them what's about to happen as they're being removed from their home, from their place of work, from their the kids from their place of felt safety with their staff and with each other. Please allow me to hand them off to you in a respectful manner. Manager training is all about dignity and respect and maintaining safety. And this obviously didn't feel safe. It was a show of force and intimidation and threat from our state government. I wish I could color it any other way, but unfortunately that's not the way it. I do understand what it feels like to have your children taken away. In this case, 27, who I truly consider a parent of, I co-parent with their families, and it was very disturbing. It was a very disturbing experience for sure. So anyway, that's what happened. They proceeded to remove their kids and take some of their belongings, and they all were shuttled off in vehicles one at a time out of the parking lot while I watched at a distance. Another disturbing thing was that I wasn't allowed to be able to interact with our team and support them as they are emotional in this whole process as well. Again, we were treated not disrespectfully in the sense that there was any aggression, but it was a show of force and it was firm, and we weren't allowed to be together. I was asked on 2 occasions, do I have any weapons? And I said, no, of course not. And then later on, no, I don't have any weapons. I'm not a threat. I'm not a violent man, and you're not gonna see any resistance from me. You're gonna see only cooperation. But I anticipate that I surmise that the reason is they asked those questions is they truly did think that I was a threat, and obviously enough of a threat to have SWAT teams on backup and close the road into Rexford off of Highway 37 and stage quite a big event. So
they did close that road into Rexford,
absolutely.
and there was a detachment of SWAT around the bend out of sight, but just there in case you were planning to resist this.
Yeah, and of course they found no weapons and they had no resistance from us whatsoever. I didn't see the SWAT, so I can't say that they were actually there, but that's what my understanding is, and that's what I was told.
And you were told by law enforcement.
Yeah, very specifically. We were going to come in with SWAT, but we chose to personally come in because we know you. We know who you are, and the state officials are coming from other parts of the state, but this was the county sheriff's department and detectives and deputies and a whole team of people that were there to keep the peace.
And those law enforcement officials and officers, they were very respectful and polite in their handling with you, and
Absolutely.
I'm presuming they were also courteous or respectful of the children. Unfortunately, the children, no matter how nicely it's put to them, they're hit like a bolt out of the blue with suddenly government officials removing them from their group, taking them elsewhere, and with no prior notice. And it is my understanding the parents were not pre-warned that this was going to happen either. So I believe you had to contact the parents after this all went away. You had to contact the parents and let them know the government in Montana has just taken your child.
Absolutely. I wasn't allowed access to my cell phones, which I had left in the table, in the gym on the table, as I walked out of the gymnasium. And so it was, I asked them, let me hand them off to you. You're strangers to these people. You're a threat. You're gonna escalate them, and they're gonna go right into their fight or flight brains, their brainstem, their survival brains, and that's very unsafe. And more importantly, it's not just unsafe. but it's extremely traumatizing to kids who have trauma histories. And
Exactly.
please, I beg of you, don't do this. You do not understand these kids. You're not familiar with their issues and their histories, and I am. And whether you agree with me or whether you think I'm abusive or neglectful or any of that, the truth is they feel safe with me and allow me to put your stamp of approval in this process and let them know, guys, this is what's happening. You don't need to be afraid. Everything's going to be taken care of. But unfortunately, that was not allowed for me to be able to make the situation so much better. And it just would have been a simple conversation in front of everybody. We're not going to have chaos. We're not going to have pandemonium. I'm calm, and I'm safe. But anyway, that's the way this went down.
Okay, so that's now history. It happened a week ago today, and on 23rd of July, 2019. And we will talk further about this, Bill, with your cooperation. We'd like to get even more deeply penetrating into how this came about, what kind of social movements were going on behind the scenes, and other factors that'll come into play. And that'll be for later in another interview. So thank you so much, my man.